Okay, so let us talk about the binomial model now. Just a sec. Okay, so the thing is, oops, just 1 second. Uh, yeah, so the thing is, so what does the binomial model tries to do? Like I have been talking, in this course, what we have to do is like price options, right? That is what I had told you guys. A main aim of the course is. Now the thing is, in order to price options, you basically at least have to know how the stocks that are there, they themselves are moving in time. Okay, so we basically try to come up with various models to do this. The simplest model that you could do computationally is the binomial model. So this thing is modeling the random movement of an asset. Okay, then after that, in the future we will consider about a differential calculus model, which is called the Black-Scholes model, in order to understand the in order to get this modeling. Okay, what is so important about this binomial model is, at least as far as the teaching perspective goes, is that it will expose you to the fundamental concepts of hedging, okay, and arbitrage, which you are anyway getting a flavor of, from the previous sections. Okay, so usefulness also is also, this particular method is also useful for cases where there are no closed formulas available for option pricing, or these formulas are very difficult. And what happens as far as option pricing goes is that, in case you are looking at a simple option, okay, and you change one of the conditions in the option becomes very complicated to evaluate. To evaluate, at least to get a closed form. For example, in case you had a European call, okay, and what you do is you simply change to early expiry. That is, instead of the call being in the call expiring on a particular date, you basically say that you could exercise the option at any date previous below a particular time frame. Okay, then it becomes an American call, and there is no simple pricing formula in that particular case. So in that particular case, what you will do is you will use computational methods, and one of these things which could help you is the binomial method. Now the binomial method, okay, the binomial model, okay, it will basically tell you a model for how the equity price, with equity you mean how the asset price, that is the stock price that is there, that itself is changing. Okay, with each time step, that is what it is trying to model. Okay, and also because of that, it will help you to get a model to this Black-Scholes equation, which is a partial differential equation for option pricing numerically. Okay, the only cons as far as this particular model goes is that because it's a binomial model, there'll be in each time step, if you go from one time and you move to a next time step, there will be only two different values of stock prices tomorrow. Okay, that you will be considering, and that thing is unrealistic, because you expect like the stock prices to be a range of values, right? In case the stock price today is one particular value, tomorrow you'll be expecting the stock price to have a range of values, right? So in case you add a third value to the model, this model totally breaks down. Okay, but however, what is good about this is at least it's good for intuitions. Even though it will give you an intuition about hedging, it will give you an intuition about how stock prices change and how that thing will be utilized towards evaluating option prices, etc. But the thing is, as far as numerical methods go, because of these cons, there are better numerical methods available. Okay, and I think so they're discussed in the book somewhere. If we can get to it, we will see, but right now I'm just telling you that they're in the book. Now let us get to the core of the model. Okay, the model that we have, let us consider that we are having a stock. Okay, and let us also consider a call option on this particular stock which expires tomorrow. Okay, so if you're having that, let us have that a stock and a call option which is expiring tomorrow on this particular stock. For the time being, let us consider interest rates to be 0. Okay, now the thing about this model is, as I have said before, the stock can go to known values up or down tomorrow. Okay, so let us say, I've just copied this thing from the book, so that you guys don't get confused when you're going from the book to what I'm doing over here. Let us say that we're having a stock value which is 100 rupees today. Okay, and there is a probability of 0.6, it will go to 0.101, and a probability of 0.1 will decrease to 99. Okay, once we have that, let us also call our because the model also involves a call option. Let us say the call option we have on this particular stock has a strike price which is 100. So the payoff tomorrow will just be 101 minus 100, 1 if it goes upstairs, or 0 in case it goes below the stock price, below the strike price. Okay. So now consider the following. Okay, we want to evaluate the value of the option today. Okay. In order to evaluate the value of the option today, let us proceed the following way. We have been doing this all the time. We construct portfolios. So we construct a portfolio where we will be longing the option. Okay, that is, we'll possess the option, and then we will short sell half of the stock. Okay, let us consider that to be a portfolio. So the value of the portfolio today is basically the value of the option today minus 1/2 times the value of the stock. Okay. Tomorrow what we have is the value of the portfolio is the value of the option at expiry, which is 1, minus 1/2 times the value of the stock at expiry, which is 101 if it goes upstairs, that is minus 99 by 2. Or if the stock price is going downstairs, the value of the option is 0, and this particular shorted asset has a value 1/2 times 100, that is again minus 99 by 2. So the thing is, either way, whether the stock value is going up or down, the value of this portfolio is minus 99 by 2. Okay, then because the value of the stock is minus 99 by 2, there is no interest rate. In order to in order to avoid any risk-free profit, what you should be having, that the value of the portfolio tomorrow, yesterday, is just equal to minus 99 by 2. We do that, we put this equal to minus 99 by 2, and we get the value of the option is 1/2. That's the value of the option today. Okay. So this is how we are evaluating the value of this particular option. Okay. Now let us go and try to analyze this whole thing properly. Okay. Try to analyze this thing in much more detail. Okay. As far as this particular pricing went, what we seen is that we have never utilized any information of the probability of rise and fall. You see, because what we are having is we have done these portfolios in such a way, okay, that the value of the option above, whether it goes above or below, is minus 99 by 2, irrespective of what the probability is going up and down are. So there is no dependence on probabilities. Okay. Next, what we have done is, because we have basically made sure, okay, that we are getting the same value of the portfolio. Okay. So we are getting the same value of the portfolio whether it goes up or down. Okay, what we basically have done is we have constructed a portfolio. The risk that is there is basically this particular probability. In case there is a probability of going up or down, you don't know what this particular probability is. Because of that, there is a risk. Either you can go up or you can go down. What we have done is we have constructed a portfolio which eliminates this risk, because whether it goes up or down, you're basically getting the same value of the portfolio. It is just minus 99 by 2. Okay, so this thing is called hedging of the risk. You have basically eliminated the risk by constructing a portfolio. Risk is always there in the stock, whether it goes up and down. If the stock you had, if it was going up and down, or the option you had, if it was going up and down, there was a possibility you might either gain or you might lose. So there's a risk involved. But you have constructed a portfolio which totally eliminates this risk. This particular way of eliminating the risk is basically called hedging. You're hedging yourself against the risk. Okay, so you're hedging. What you have done is, as far as the option went, you have hedged the option with the stock, and you don't care if the stock rises or falls. Okay, so however, the thing is, the stock range that is there, that is how much the price of the stock has basically can go up or down, that basically is important in the problem, and this is called the volatility. Okay, how much the stock price is basically varying, how much it could go up or how much it could go down. This particular range that is there is called a volatility, and this thing is important. Okay, now you would say, okay, but how do we figure out how much of stock to short? Because finally what we are doing is, the reason we are stocking a short and with an option and longing an option is so that we can construct a portfolio such that the risk is eliminated. That is, irrespective of the stock going up or down, you're having the same value of the portfolio. But the thing is, I told you let us stock half of the stock. Okay, so that is one question that we need to answer. How do we know how much of stock to short? And also, what happens in case the interest rate is not equal to 0? Okay, because right now we had assumed the interest rate is equal to 0. Before we go there, let us look at this, how the no arbitrage argument basically works over here. The thing is like right now what I've done is, okay, I've evaluated the theoretical price, such that there is no risk-free profit. But what in case, the market price that was there is some guy who is basically, the markets don't agree to that, then how could we like say is the theoretical price equal to the market price? What I'm basically implying is that, let us say we're having a guy A, we know the stock theoretical price of the option is 0.5, but in case there is a guy A, he sells the option for 0.55, he immediately makes a profit of 0.05. But then some guy B will come in the market and he will sell it at a lower price. He's still making a profit, but lesser profit, but he's still making a profit. He gets all the business, okay, from A. In order to fight that, A starts selling it for a shorter price. You can keep going downstairs, and in the end the price gets fixed to 0.5. So this thing is the example of a no arbitrage argument, that there is no question of a risk-free profit. The markets adjust themselves so that the price that is there becomes such that there is no possibility of risk-free profit. Okay. Now let us go back to the problem at hand. We had asked, how do we know how much of stock, how did we know how that we had to share half of the stock? The argument there is that you basically assume that you're selling a stock which is basically equal to delta. This is the amount of stock, fraction of the stock that you're basically short selling. If the price of the stock goes to S plus UP, okay, you know that this portfolio will be S plus UP minus the strike price, okay, minus delta times S plus UP, okay. As we have said, the probabilities are irrelevant, okay, so let us not worry about the probabilities right now. In case the stock price basically decreases, okay, then we know that below the exercise price the value of the option is 0, whereas the value of this commodity is minus delta S minus down. What we have to do is, in order to make sure that we have hedged correctly, these two quantities should be equal to each other, okay. We have to hedge against up and down movements. We put these two equal to each other. We do that, and then what we get is, what we are having is an unknown delta. Everything else we know in the problem, S up, E, S and down. We can basically solve for delta, and what the delta comes out to be is, the delta comes out to be equal to the option payoff on a stock rise times the range of the stock price changes. So there are two things that delta will depend upon: the range, which is the volatility that I have been telling you guys, divided, and that thing is dividing the option payoff, okay, on a strike price. So this is how you are going to be evaluating the value of delta. That is, in the previous example, what we knew is that the option payoff was just 1 unit, okay, and that is, the option payoff was just 1 unit, okay, and the range of stock price changes was 1 plus 1 equal to 2. That's why you had the option, the amount of stock, fraction of the stock that had to be sold was 1/2. Okay. Now the second thing that I told you guys was, what about non-zero interest rates? Okay. So question is, what about non-zero interest rates? Okay. Now the interest rate that is there is, let us say it's equal to 0.1. That is, okay. So that is in 1 year. In case you had 1 rupee with you, okay, in 1 year the value would have become, you took it and put it inside a bank, the value is 1 plus 0.1. Okay. So in 1 day, the value of this 1 rupee basically on an average would change by 1 plus 0.1 divided by 365. Okay. Just check out your tutorial, the previous things about the time value of the money. Okay. So the 1 rupee that is there tomorrow, okay, is actually worth 1 divided by 1 plus 0.1365 today. Okay. Once we have that argument in place, okay, remember the following. Okay. The portfolio we had, okay, the value of the portfolio today is the value of the option minus 100 by 2. Okay. And tomorrow the value of the portfolio that we have is given by, this is how we have discounted it, such that there is no risk, whether the stock moves up and down. The value of the portfolio was minus 99 by 2. Okay. So the discounted value of the portfolio today is minus 99 by 2 times 1 divided by 1 plus 0.1365. Okay. because this is the value tomorrow. We have to consider what will be its value today in terms of rupees, in order to consider the interest rates, the miracle of the interest rates. So it is minus 99 by 2 times 1 divided by this factor. Okay. Now in case you want to make no arbitrage profits, you should basically have that the value of this particular portfolio today is basically value of the portfolio tomorrow, okay, with the interest rate that has been with discounting by the interest rates. You have that, you solve the value of option value. Okay. Now let us consider the following. Okay, this thing is called like a risk curve. Okay. Okay, the return on a particular investment versus a risk. Okay, you take your money, you put it inside a bank deposit, there is no risk involved, and the return is also equal to 0, in case you're assuming the interest rate is equal to 0 for the time being. Okay, as far as the stock goes, the stock price might either go up or down. Okay, that's why there is a possibility of a return, but there is also a risk, that is, in case it goes up, you're making a profit, but it goes down, you might lose the particular profit. Okay, that's why there's a possibility of a return. The return and the risk are basically, you increase the return, there will be increase of the risk. As we have been I've been telling you guys about the option. In option, think about the option is, as far as the stock goes, you will only be losing the value, a particular change in the value. If it increases, then you'll make that much amount of profit. If it decreases, you'll make that much amount of a loss. Okay, but you will not be losing your stock altogether. Okay. However, with an option, the issue with an option, it gives you a right to buy or buy a particular commodity. So either you will make a complete profit, or you'll basically make a complete loss. Okay, the amount of premium that you're paying, okay, the amount of premium that you're paying, will either get completely lost if you don't make any if the stock price basically goes below the strike price of the option, or you'll be making some kind of a profit based on the in case the stock price goes upstairs. So that is why the return that is there is much more higher compared to the risk, and the risk is also much more higher. Okay. Now the thing is, why do we put this on a straight line? The reason we put these values on a straight line is because what we have basically said is that an option that we have and a shorted stock with a quantity which is delta. Okay, the thing is, this particular portfolio that is there, is like risk free. It doesn't change one day to the other, so it is almost like a cash. Okay, that is because the cash value that is there are no returns on it. This thing also doesn't have any returns, but there are no risks on it also, because the value is stationary, so it's almost like a cash. Okay, so what we have is that we can express one of these option, stocks or cash in terms of the other two. Okay, and this statement that is there is basically saying that the markets are complete. Okay, this thing is like the definition of the statement, that is, you can express the option or stock in terms of the cash, or you replace you express any one of them in terms of any of the other two. Now there is another conception over here. The conception is the following. Okay, the approach towards evaluating the stock, the option value, in this binomial model, it's like two different worlds that you could basically use. In the real world, the greater risk you take, you will get the greater return. I had also shown you the graph before. Okay, because the thing is, greater risk means the probability of the stock value going up is as higher. It can go much, the stock value can go very high, or it can go very low. So the probability, you will also have a probability of a greater return in that particular case, or a greater loss also. Okay. Next, when we are evaluating the options, evaluating the option value using the binomial model, what we do is we see that the probabilities of the up and down are basically irrelevant. Okay, the only thing that matters is how much value the stock price is going up or the stock pricing is going down, and this is the only information that is required as far as option pricing goes. Okay. Now there is another way of looking at this problem, which is called a risk neutral world. Okay, in the risk neutral world, the approach, okay, towards option pricing, what you say is, the way that it works is that there is no risk, has no correlation towards returns. Okay, and the pricing that is there is basically simply a simple value of expectations. It's just basically simple expectations. Now what does this particular word mean? Okay, the thing is, in case I'm basically, just to give an example, say I'm having a stock of price 100. It is going 101 tomorrow, 99 today. Okay. So you're having a probability that it goes up and a probability that is going down. Okay. Now the question is, the question I ask is, what does this simple expectation means? Question I ask is this stock rightly priced on simple expectations? What that basically implies, translated to a mathematical statement, is that since the stock is going up with a probability p, stock is going down with the probability 1 minus p. Okay, what I'm basically saying is that the expected value, okay, expected value of the stock, okay, on an average, the expected value of the stock that is there tomorrow is going to be equal to p times 101 plus 1 minus p times 99. Expected means on an average what will be the value of the stock tomorrow. Okay, and then on simple expectations, if I'm talking about the stock being rightly priced, what I say is that the expected value of the stock tomorrow should be equal to the stock value of the stock today. Okay, this is what is meant by the that the stock is rightly priced. The expected value, it should be equal to the stock today. Okay, in case this is the way I'm basically trying to look at my problem. Okay, in that particular case, if I solve this, I'm going to be getting the probabilities of 1/2. Obviously the probabilities are not 1/2, because as I said, as far as my actual probabilities go, they are like 0.6 up and 0.4 downstairs. But if I'm basically using this kind of a way of evaluating the stock prices, I get the probabilities equal to 1/2. Okay, the question is that the probabilities are irrelevant. That is what we had seen also in the previous model, right? When we had like construct a particular portfolio which was risk free, we saw the probabilities are irrelevant. So the thing is, over here we are evaluating the wrong probabilities. The thing is, even if we are evaluating the wrong probabilities, this particular method of evaluation will still give us the right option pricing. That is something to check, just because it's giving us the wrong probabilities. The thing is, let us go forward. Let us say we will now evaluate the option value itself. Like here we had evaluated the stock value. Let us evaluate the option value itself on simple expectations. In order to do that, what do? We know that the option price that is there, as far as simple expectations go, is that it is going upstairs or it is going downstairs. Okay, upstairs the option price, the stock price can go 1/2, downstairs 1/2, based on simple expectations. In that particular case, the option price that is there when it goes upstairs is basically 1, downstairs it is 0. Okay, so the expected value on an average, the value of the option that you are getting tomorrow, okay, is going to be equal to 1 times 0.1/2 plus 0 times 0.5 is equal to 0.5. So you used a totally different method. The expectation, this is the expected value. Then you say that, okay, non-arbitrage would basically say that, the value expected tomorrow is just equal to the value today. In case I make this logic, okay, then I'm basically saying that the expected option value is equal to 0.5. Okay. In that particular case, what I see is that I'm getting the same value as the real world. Okay, what I've done is, I have made a mistake over here. The thing is, obviously, the thing is, you cannot use this concept of expected option value, okay, on simple expectations, because in case I went with the actual probabilities, if this thing was 0.6 and this thing was 0.4, okay, then what I would be having as far as this evaluation goes, the actual expected option value, because I know that this thing is the actual probability that I'm having of going up is 0.6 and this thing is 0.4, the expected option value would have been 0.6. So if I went with the right probabilities, I'm getting a value of the option which is wrong. But if I'm using a probability that I'm evaluating by hand, saying that if the stock is rightly priced on simple expectations, my probability had to be equal to 1/2, which itself was the wrong probability. Okay, I'm basically using the information of the wrong probabilities, and then I basically try to evaluate the expected value. I'm getting the right option value. So it is almost like I made a mistake over here in the probability. Then I'm using a mistaken way of doing the option evaluation. Okay, because if I use the right probability, I was getting a wrong answer. If I used that means this method itself was wrong. But if I use this particular method which was wrong, okay, utilizing the value of the probability which itself was wrong, the two wrongs that are there are cancelling to give you the same probability value in the end, to give you the same option value in the end. Okay, so this thing is, it seems like that the evaluation of things, as long as you are using the simple expectation formulation, okay, of evaluating option values. If you are using the simple expectation to evaluate the price of a stock, okay, today, and then you're using the same expectation, simple expectation to evaluate the value of the option today, okay, then in that case you will get the right value of the option. Okay, so you have to like do two wrongs, okay, that is evaluate the wrong value of the probability and then utilize the wrong value of doing the expected use the wrong argument, okay, of evaluating the option value today, okay, then in that particular case you will get the right option value. Okay, two wrongs make one right, somehow that is what is happening. Mathematically we can also see why this thing is coming out to be true. Okay, in case of the risk neutral model, what we had seen was you're having a stock price, it could go up or it could be down, probability with p and 1 minus p. Okay, the thing is the average value that is there of the stock is going to be probability times up value times downwards probability times down value. That in case you have to have the, according to simple expectations, this thing has to be put equal to s. You can evaluate the probability and it is going to be coming out to be this quantity. Okay, if you are now evaluating the price of the option using simple expectations, what we do is we multiply p times the value with which the option is going upstairs, which is u minus e. So this thing is u minus e times p, which is equal to this quantity. We can see that this same quantity is getting evaluated in case we do we consider risk into the problem. Okay, that is we construct a portfolio which is the option minus the hedged stock. The value of this particular portfolio is basically at expiry is u minus e minus the price of the delta times the value of the stock tomorrow, and if it goes down it is basically just minus delta times u. Because we are like hedging, that means the up and down value should be equal to each other. That gives you the value of delta. Okay, and then what we have to say is that in order to make sure that there are no arbitrage possibilities, this particular value that is there, the risk neutral value, the the hedged value that is there tomorrow should be equal to the value today of this portfolio. So that is why we are having this is equal to this. There should be a minus sign here. Okay, and then when you make the right substitutions, what we are getting is that we will be getting the same value of the option. Okay, so the thing is whether we are going with risk or risk neutral way of evaluating the final value of the option, we come up with the right answer. Okay, the risk was the right way of doing things. As far as the risk neutral way, we saw that it was doing a mistake where it's evaluating the probabilities which themselves will not be equal to the real probabilities. Okay, but then you utilize those probabilities evaluating the expected value of the option. The expected value of the option that is there is not equal to the true value of the option in case you are using the right probabilities, but when you utilize the wrong probabilities, the answers are coming out to be the same. Okay.